for what matters most this Christmas. Plan ahead for 2021 with the Nottingham Building Society to take a step forward with your future finances. Look for your nearest branch today at thenottingham.com/branches.
So, should we talk some ice hockey?
Sure. No, yeah, I'm happy to, of course.
Well, we could talk about football, but I don't think anyone would listen to us do that.
I'll pass on that, I think.
So, everyone knows the stories of like when we have Canadians on here, they put the skates on at 3-4 years old. What is quite interesting for me is when ice hockey comes into the life of a British person. So, when did ice hockey first come into your life?
It was the famous Panthers Steelers fight game.
Okay.
That was my first game as a fan. And then obviously I turned to mum and dad and I was like, yep, that's what I want to do now. And they probably turned to each other and thought, here we go, this is going to be great. But yeah, so then I started playing. I did the grades and everything.
So how old would you have been at that point?
6 or 7.
Okay.
Maybe. Probably slightly younger. I don't know. Don't quote me on my maths here. But yeah, so it was a case of watching that and thinking that is insane, and that's what I want to do. But then did my grades, and then it was I started as a player when I was 6 or 7 probably, and then funny story. So when I started as a player, and then we were in an under-10s tournament in Bracknell, and the goalie at the time, Tom Avell, so he backed up a couple of times last season. He got injured, so they just looked down the bench, and it was obviously before health and safety and anything like that. And they said, "Who wants to go in goal?" And sure enough, I was there, like, "Yeah, I'll try it." So Tom, he got hurt, so I borrowed his stick, gloves, and that was it. So I just went in there, stood in front of all the players, and carried on just as in-play equipment, just with a goalie stick and gloves. And then since then, it was a case of, this is even better than I thought than it looked. Then it was, so that's how I got involved with that.
And then when you go to that first, like you say, that first game, that Panthers Steelers game, who is it that catches your eye? Is it Barry Nykar? There's the obvious one, because he's the in the middle of all of that chaos in that game.
Yeah, of course it is. When he's in the middle of the ice, going at it with someone, and someone jumps over the back of him, and then you think, I could just relay it anyway in my head, but you just think, this is insane, and I just want to be a part of it. And then it took off from there. So then, I don't know if Danny Lorenz was the same year as that.
It's before my time.
Oh, okay. So there was a goalie called Danny Lorenz, and he had these unbelievable Louisville pads, and he had a player Reebok helmet on, and an Osgood, Osgood helmet.
And he had kind of like old school sort of thing.
Yeah, like a player helmet with the cat's eye cage, and I was like, this is just incredible. And then since then, I was like, that's who I want to be. And I took it from there, really. And somewhere in the loft here, I've got a picture of Danny Lorenz, like, signed and everything. And I think it just resonates, that the fact that it's cool that I've played there now. And growing up, like, I was the fan, and at the signings, and Danny Lorenz, can have your picture and everything like that. And it's cool that I got to do it. So it's fun.
As you say, you're a fan when you're going through these junior systems and stuff.
Yeah.
Who were like your favourites as you would get? Was it always because when you took that chance in net, and that you went with that afterwards? Was it always the netminders who were your favourites as you were going forward after that?
Yeah. No, I was, to be honest, I think it was Danny Lorenz to start with, and then it broadcast into like players across the league. So then it was I liked watching Mark Cadot play, who was an incredible player by the standards, and he just I don't know, he wore number 27, I think, and my birthday was on the 27th, and as a kid you're like, that's cool, and it just took off from there. And then, like, in Nottingham, it was like Greg Haddon and Barry Nykar, and I can remember we did a Legends game, I think. I don't know if it was the Legends or an All-Star game, I'm not sure, and I was in the dressing room with Barry Nykar. I was trying to obviously play it really cool, but in my head, and Mark Cadot was there as well. And I don't know how old I was, but in my head I was like, this is unreal. And I was just sat in the corner, just like really happy with myself that I was in the room with them. But it was just cool to see them. Obviously, they were a lot older when they came for that Legends game, I think, and it was just a bit like childhood dream here. Like, I'm just sitting here. This is so cool.
So you got to play like 2 of those Legends games whilst you were a kid, then? Because
Yeah.
when I sent you the other day.
Yeah, the one you sent me, and then it must have been an All-Star game. It must have been when I don't know if it was. I don't know. It might have been Clark. No, it wouldn't have been Clarky's. I can't remember. Yeah. But it was someone's All-Star game, and it was just a bit like it was that era where.
Wasn't the one Gary played in, was it?
Because
Gary sent me a picture the other day of him in Greg Haddon's gear on the ice in the big stadium, so it could have been that one.
It might have been that one, yeah.
I hope Gary didn't score on you.
Oh God, I'd never lived it down. Every time I come into the office, he just get after me. But yeah, it must have been that, and it was just a bit like, this is insane that I'm on the ice with these guys, and obviously they were like, who's this weirdo in the corner? But I loved it.
And then everyone knows like the trials and tribulations of getting into ice hockey these days. It's not an easy game to get into because you train in late at night. Even if you're a kid, you're training at 10, 11 p.m. What's it like back in like 2003, 2004, about when you would have been doing it?
It was difficult. I had a lot of help for it. Like obviously, mum and dad push you and not push you, but help motivate you in doing it and I wanted it as well. But it was hard. Like when you just train and you have to train up, and then I think the rules are different now, but when I was, I don't know, 10, 11, I was training as a goalie with the 12s and then training as a goalie with the 14s, and you just have to get as much ice time as you can, and then progressing. Like I did like the Midlands stuff and England, and then that's when it becomes like it's a Saturday night in, I don't know, I think it was probably Hull or somewhere like Kingston when it was called Kingston. Kingston Ice Rink, and it was 11 till 1, and you were 9 years old, and you're getting back to Nottingham at I don't know 3 in the morning, and you all just to get 2 hours a night on the ice with the group, and then like we go over to like Germany, Europe, mainland Europe, to play little tournaments, and you just have to push, and you can't express enough how much you have to work, because you have to be able to keep up with everyone else that is getting the ice time. So you just have to work incredibly hard.
And then as a picking netminding, it's a very specialised position, obviously. Yeah. And there's not hundreds of goalie coaches just knocking around and stuff. So is it a case of have you got like at that point, have you got like one coach who's trying to teach everyone everything? Or are you picking up a lot of stuff on your own just by watching, just by going in there and just
So I was fortunate enough to have late Mark Steeples. He used to play. He coached me for a long time when I was young, and obviously him being an old school goaltender, he just drilled skating, like skate. Like you can't skate enough. You have to be the best skater on the ice. I know it's a nice saying for everyone, but it's true. Yeah, like even now, like when I've been jumping on the ice with the Cyclones, the rec team, I've been getting on the ice with them and playing as a player. And like some of the guys on there, they were like, how are you skating like that? Like I was like, you just have to, like, you get taught very young to skate as, you are the best skater on the ice. And I was fortunate enough to have Mark teach me a lot. And then obviously as I developed, you have to sort of broaden your horizons a little bit. And he was great. And obviously he passed away when I was quite young. And then it was a kind of learn from anything you can. So learn from what, like, when I'd come to elite, might have been Super League games back then, and I'm not sure. But then I'd just sit and watch the goalie. I wouldn't even, I'd obviously take attention to the game. But most of the time, I'd put pucks down there. I'd just be watching the goalie, and the same with the like NHL on the TV. And it's just picking up things when you can, and that's what it was like really back then. But now you're fortunate enough to have like guys like Ewan King, and where they do a specialized, goalie academy and help progress guys properly, rather than 10-year-old Sam teaching himself to do a butterfly or something like that. But it worked out.
And when you're watching these netminders, is there anyone that you're trying to emulate? Because a lot of great players do emulate other players as they go through. So you watch someone. Did you try and like pick up a way a certain netminder would move and add that to your game?
Of course, I still do it now. Like back then, it was Manny Legacy who played for the Wings, and that was my team. I love the Red Wings, and I still follow them anyway. And it's a shame they kind of suck right now. But
so many years of being good.
Yeah, it's really caught up with them really quick. But yeah, so I watched. He was like someone I like to look at and watch, and then even now it's Kerry Price, Pecorine, all those guys where it's effortless watching them play, and it's stuff. UC Saros, he's a smaller guy in the NHL. He's probably not that small. He's probably like 6 foot, but in terms of the NHL, he is relatively small. And it's just guys like that you just try and emulate and be effortless. And that's probably not what my game is. My game is a lot of effort and a lot of speed, but it's nice to think I try.
I'm sure in your head it looks like that just when you're out there. Then you watch the tape back, you go, "Who's that guy?"
Yeah, that's not me, is it? Oh, that's ugly.
It's almost like the time that I remember at Panthers training, and he would kill me if he listens to this and he finds this out. He will kill me. Okay. Michael Garnett was at university, and Dan Green was in goal in Michael Garnett's stuff, and I didn't know until Dan came off the ice that it wasn't Garnett.
Oh gosh. Oh dear. No offense to Dan, but
there is a difference.
Yeah. KHL All-Star. Never mind.
I should have known when he wasn't trying to just pull out 2-pad stacks on everything in training. That should have gave it away to me.
Yeah.
And obviously, the Panthers' relationship with the junior system has been, from what I understand, like I hear like certain sides of it, and it's been up and down different ways throughout the years for many different reasons. What was it like back then? Was there any Panthers in books? I know guys at some point like Bruce Richardson and Corey were involved at little points. But when you were breaking in, was there any involvement from the Panthers? And was there any like clear pathway to the Elite League from being a junior?
When I was, climbing up, I don't think there was. As kids, we were never made aware of if there was a pathway. It was more of a you work, and then that's where you get to, and you just try and keep trying. But obviously now there is that. There's that pathway to getting somewhere in the game. But then it was more of you just keep working. And it's not against either of the organisations, but it just wasn't there, I don't think. But it leads into like how I got into the Panthers. So I think I was about 17, I think.
From what I can work out, based on Elite Prospects, your first when you were registered with the Panthers was the 11-12 season, from what I can work out.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that was my first. Yeah, I think that was when I signed. So it was. I think it was the start of the season. Was that when we did the treble?
No, that was the double. The year.
The
year after was the treble.
Okay, so the double year. So Kowalski, didn't come in straight away, and there was a pre-season scheduled game in Belfast. And it was, and I was working out a greener at the time. And he texted me like, what are you doing this weekend? And I was like, nothing. So he said, do you want to come to Belfast? Killer can't make it. And I was like, yeah. So then like Corey got in touch, and then it was like, oh, I'm actually here. And then it progressed into me. Well, I hope I impressed at the time, but it progressed into me training. And then that weekend I got some game time on the Sunday. And I've got a picture. It's quite strange, really, but I've got a picture of me and Net in Belfast, and Guy was in front of me, like a younger Guy.
With hair.
I don't know. Come on, no comment. But yeah, a younger Guy was in front, and I think it was Darryl Lloyd, a name from the past there. But yeah,
there's a name.
Yeah, he was quite scary for a 17-year-old.
You've listened to this show before. You've listened. What was your first interactions with Corey like? Because I hear all kinds of stories, as you know I do, about Corey Neilson. What was your first experience with him like? Because everyone seems to be a bit, when they first meet him.
Yeah, kind of knocked me back, and it was like I was obviously, super excited, but I can remember I turned up and he like I knocked on his little office and he sort of stood up and he just went, "Is that it?" Like looked at me and I was like, oh, "Okay." But he always like he made a comment about my height and everything like that, and then it was just a bit like, "Oh God, this is what I've come to." But you have to. I feel like the comment is take it with a pinch of salt kind of thing. But he does it to make you better, and it's all made out. It's all in to make you a better person and stronger and everything like that. But yeah, he's even now. So when I returned 3 years ago, I think now
17, 18.
Yeah, 17, 18. I came back and I did the same thing, like going to the dressing room again. And he just looked at me and goes, "Well, you haven't grown." It was just like, oh my God, like here we go again kind of thing. And he was like, "Oh, I'm only messing, but seriously, you haven't grown." I was like, "Oh, maybe not, but I hope I'm a bit better now." But yeah, he is one of a kind. And then it was just like coaching when I was younger, when he was coaching me. And I can remember the other day when Galby said he had him on the ice, just on his own. And it was like when I was 17, it was like that, but he would rip them hard at me and just like try and bury me through the net. And he'd coach, but it'd be in a way where you just like think, I've got to do better here. Like he pushes you.
Yeah.
And then obviously as a 17-year-old, you just keep your lips shut and you just don't say a thing. You just keep doing what he says and just try your best. And I can remember we were doing a drill and it was like a D-man shooting drill, and he joined in and he said, "You are not going on your knees in this drill." And like I was stood there like my knees are shaking because I don't want to do anything wrong, and I dropped down for a save and he lost his mind with me. He completely lost it, and it was just like that. He's probably the best coach I've ever had, really, but he's good.
And then, well, like you say, when you come into that team in 11-12, K-Wall's late into it, but K-Wall, he's been in Nottingham 1 year there, but he's already the man. Like people know who Craig Kowalski is. What was your interactions with him like?
It was fairly brief to start with. I was just the kid training and trying to steal a bit of ice time off either of them, hopefully. I didn't steal much off Killer, put it that way. But yeah, he was great. He somewhat took me under his wing and taught me things, and albeit brief, because he's got bigger things to think about than teaching the kid how to play goalie. But yeah, great guy. And then when he came back to do testimonials and everything, he was, "How's it going? How's everything? How's the family?" And like all of them really. And then when like Foxy came, and then I was still the young kid because it felt like I was the kid forever when I was that age. But even then when he came back, and Brock Wilson as well, they asked me how I was and how everything's going and everything like that. So they're just good people. Killer was a great goalie as well, and he showed it.
And at that time, that's when the Panthers, like as an organisation, was like turning around, winning lots and lots of trophies. And when you're in and around that room, like sporadically, as I imagine you are when you're training in the week and stuff.
Yeah.
Can you tell that something is like bubbling there? That's especially with guys like Jordan Fox in that room, and Matt Francis was there that year. And like, can you tell? And obviously K-Wall and Benny. I think that was Benny's first year.
Yeah.
So can you tell that something's bubbling when you walk in? Does it feel like, oh, this is a legit environment sort of thing?
Yeah, I think so. It's hard to describe. It's that feeling of togetherness. I think even the group I was young, obviously, but even I felt part of the team and everything like that. And it was just that whole team on the ice and off the ice. And obviously off ice antics are off ice antics. But that's where you bond and everything like that. So it did feel special. And even though I didn't play many, I don't think I played one game that year. But I was there all week. And then when it came to Friday, they'd be like, "Oh, good luck, Sam. Have a good weekend. I'll see you Tuesday." And even that kind of thing, it made it sound really good to me. And it was just that whole I need to do well this weekend and have a good week of practice next week and keep building. And then it was just a good group of people, a good group of guys, and it turned out to be very special.
And how much do you think? Well, obviously, this is gonna be a ridiculous question to ask because the answer is obviously yes. But how much do you think that training with those guys in the week, facing guys like Jordan Fox in training, facing guys like David Beauregard in training, how much do you think that benefited you going back to play in the juniors and things like that?
Leaps and bounds. There was being on the ice with those guys. You can't compare with being on the ice with your own age. And it was just such a massive learning curve. And I think a lot of it was mental. It taught me, even to this day, you have to think a lot more. You have to think the game. And like when I coach now, that's what I preach. Like, you have to think. And there's guys out there that they think a lot quicker than yourself. And you have to learn to be like that. And I think that was the eye opener. And obviously I was way behind in talent anyway, but it was just a case of, learn from these guys and take it into whatever I was playing at the time. And it was at the time, they were just so quick and smart, and they knew exactly what to do with the puck whenever they needed to do something with it. And it wasn't even a case of thinking to do it. It's just like, snap the fingers and they'd done it. And it's probably past you. Especially with Beauregard, I can remember Corey used to like his drill where you push the net really close to the wall and you chip a puck off the glass, and it would be me versus the player. And obviously it was always Beau, because he could turn in a shoebox kind of player. And he was just incredible at just moving it one way and then the next, and it was in the back of the net. And I'd turn and look at Corey and he'd be like shaking his head at me, and it was just a case like that where they're just so good at it. And it was just a massive learning curve, and then obviously grateful I had it.
And like you didn't get any ice time that year, but you did get your first ice time for the Panthers the year after, in this incredible game against Edinburgh, where Kwal is on baby duty. His wife's about to give birth.
Oh, just repeat that. Sorry, it went all frozen. Sorry.
in 12-13, you get your first chance with you get some ice time at home. In this game where against the Capitals, where Kwal's waiting for news on his wife giving birth, or his fiance at the time. You're the third goalie in this. Gary's still not explained to me how this is a legal setup to have this ready.
Oh, I remember this.
I'm still not sure it's a legal thing to do, but whatever. It's happened. It's in the past. It's done. It's in the record books.
It's the elite league. It doesn't matter.
So, what did you know going into that night about Kwal potentially leaving the game early, Dan coming in, then obviously you get late in the third period for 5-10 minutes? What did you know going into that game? No,
I had no idea. Corey said to me, get to the rink 2 hours before, like every other guy, warm up, and then just be ready. He never said anything, you'll be going in. And I feel like, looking back now, I'm sure he wanted to put me in at some point. But it was I don't even know how it's possible, for one, to have three goalies dress. But I think looking back now, it was a case of, if Killer comes off hurt, Greener can go in and I can go in as well. And then so Killer comes off, he's like, oh, my foot's hurting or something, something ridiculous. And I don't know who the ref was at the time, and he was like squinty-eyed at him, like, you're lying here. But oh well, off you go.
I think it was 5-0 or something. They went up a lot early, so it made it all a bit more easy to go with.
And it was obviously Greener when Killer came. I think it must have been after the first or second.
I think Kwal did one period.
I
think you got the last 10 minutes of the game. I think.
And Greener went in obviously to play the second, and we played 30 minutes. And then at this point, I was like, oh, this is unreal. Like, I'm backing up. This is so cool. And then Corey turns to me, he's like, you're in, kid. I was like, I didn't know what to do. I just like, where's my stick? Where's my helmet? Goodies passing me things. And I'm like, what are these? And I just, completely lost all control of anything. I don't even know what my helmet was, or, just a complete massive hit of nerves, because I wasn't expecting it. And then obviously I did all right. I probably didn't face a shot or something ridiculous.
Yeah, you recorded a shutout. That's all that matters.
Well, I'll take one shot then. Yeah. So, and on the way down, Corey's like, "You better not mess this up for me." I was like, "Oh my God." And so we recorded the first 3 goalie shutout. So that was unreal.
And I'm just going to jump back a bit in time because I skipped over something there. That wasn't your first time playing on that big ice. You did that at that Legends game where you're starting in one goal for the Rising Stars. Yeah. And down the other end, you're facing off against Rastislav Rovniemniak.
That was
now, tell me about what that was like, because before this interview goes live, I'm going to put that game up on YouTube. I know you've seen it because I sent it to you, but I'm going to put it on YouTube on Monday.
Yeah.
Before yours goes up, just so people can watch it. But like, what was that like for you? Because you said, you're a fan. You know who Rasty is. You know what he did. You know his legend. What was it like going up against him?
That was unreal as well. Like, I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of opportunities to play against people I watched, which is out of this world, really. But it was just a bit like, I'm looking down the end of this guy and he's got these massive blue pads on and he's got this massive blue helmet, and you think, how would this guy even play? And like, even like when he played for the Panthers, he was an older guy. And like, even when we played them, like, we were all 16-year-old kids trying to do our best in front of half an intermission crowd, like really trying against these guys. And it was just incredible watching it. I can remember the team picture at the end, and like, I was desperate to get, when we all crowd together, and I was like, in my head, I was like, I've got to get next to him. Like, this is the coolest thing. And I can't remember if I did or not, but I can remember seeing a picture and like every other guy's facing forward, and I'm just sort of staring, like a little, I was just staring over the goal, Rasto, and I was just looking back. I'm thinking, you loser.
The thing is, he wasn't a big netminder either, so he would have been someone you would have looked up to when you watched him.
Definitely. I can remember when you sent me the game and I watched it all the way through. I didn't stop smiling. Like, it's hilarious. And then I can remember like I made some, in my humble opinion, I made some decent saves. But I was pretty happy with it watching it back. And then,
apart from that first shot that you got.
Yeah, that was a bit ugly.
Did it get? Right, let's settle this. Did it go in?
I hope not. And I think I don't know, but I'm going to call it a blackout moment.
But you bounced back well from that.
Yeah, regained some dignity on that one. But it was just cool. Like, even when you go back a little bit further and like, like the kids games, they play a couple of minutes each way in the periods. And even I was doing those, and it's just cool that now the process does work. And it's obviously the kids you see during the games now, that could be, that could be them in the future. And it is cool. Like, I can remember watching, my mum recorded the game. She was like the mum in the crowd, just with a massive video camera, getting in people's way. But she watched what we watched from back years ago, and I was like so nervous. I was about 10 feet into the corner, like I didn't even know where my goal was at this point. Because I just saw people. You just look up and you see people everywhere. You think, oh my God. And I can remember letting one in, and I like go to save it, but like the net's 10 feet the other way, and I was like, oh my God, let's carry on. Let's just dig this one out.
So how, like you say, in the minute, like in the intermissions when the kids play, how intimidating an atmosphere is that for a kid to be in front of all those people?
It's completely alien, because when you're playing the kids games, you're, however old you are, and the crowd is mum, dad, and all the other mums and dads. There's no one there. And then suddenly when you skate out into the arena and you see, I don't know, 2,000 people, and they're all like, oh, look how small they are. And at the time, you like go really fast and try really hard, but you look like an ant on there. But it's well intimidating, It's a bit like, oh, this is weird. But even now, like when I can remember when I was calling the games a couple of nights when I wasn't dressing, and the kids come on, I think it's just wicked. I think they're so cool, and it's just good to see them all.
And being in and around that team, 12, 13, I imagine it's the same setup as well. You're training with the Panthers in the week and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you get in training? Did you get chirped by David Ling at all? Because
yes. all the time.
One of the rules, I've got like 2 or 3 steadfast rules on this, and one of them is give me a David Ling story.
Oh God! So like he came in late, like when he signed, he was like came in late, and at the time I was quite oblivious to who these guys are, and then his store was to my left. Obviously there was like Killer Greener, and I was just like on the small store near them trying to dig out a spot, and he came in late, and then there was he came in and like he just came in with this presence, and like the whole room like suddenly lost oxygen. In my opinion, it was just a bit like no one say a word to this guy, like he looks like he's gonna wrap his stick around your neck kind of thing. And he's lovely, like such a nice guy, so humble and such an amazing person. But at the time I was like, oh my God. And then like I'd see when I'd dress for games, he'd eat a pepper. I think it was a pepper or an onion, something out of this world. Like you just thought, I looked over and he was just like hammering away at this. I can't remember if it was a pepper or an onion. I was like, in my head, I was like, this guy for real? Like, but it's obviously just his thing. And it was just an amazing person to be around. I can remember I backed up one game and I don't know who he was playing against. And he said, close your ears to me, because I was obviously on the bench. And
because he'd always go down the other end and shout at them, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he'd like, like a little gap where the photographers are. He'd be like basically half over it, trying to tell someone he's going to do something horrific. And it isn't like, to be honest, it isn't repeatable, anything he says. And I was just sort of like, just sat there like, oh my God, he's probably going to do something horrible here. And he said, I can't remember what he said. If I could, I wouldn't repeat it. But it was just a bit like, just looking around, like looking for someone to clarify what he said. It was just incredible. Like he played with such intensity. I've got another story actually about him. James Griffin used to play for
Coventry.
Coventry, yeah. It was when he played for Coventry. For some reason, Linger had a fight with him.
Yeah. And
like once he served his penalty and came to the bench, Corey was like, well done, Linger, you just beat up a kid. And he was like, he's got no teeth and everything. He's just like laughing away. And he didn't even bat an eyelid at it. He's just a brilliant person.
I think the only other person he fought that year, because like there's no doubt David Ling, pound for pound, one of the toughest guys ever played over here. I think his 2 fights in the Elite League were against James Griffin and Bobby Chamberlain.
Yeah, it's just kids.
And then one of the cool things about that 12-13 year as well is it's in the office, the big picture. You're on the big picture with the league trophy with the team. That must be, as a kid, for them to bring you into that as well and let you quote unquote let you be in that photo shows how much you were actually part of the group, doesn't it? I imagine that means the world to someone like you.
Yeah. So when we got that picture, did they win it? Was it a treble they won in Belfast?
They won the league in Belfast, but then they came home. But then they had a game against Cardiff, I think.
Yeah. So that weekend they won in Belfast. It was a Friday night, and I think they won the game. So the Saturday game didn't mean a thing. And then Corey rang me after the game. He was like, "Kid, your ticket's booked. Get on the plane." I was like, "What?" He's like, "You're coming to Belfast. Get on the plane." So I was coaching on a Friday night kids session, and I was just a bit like, "I've got to go. I'm going to the airport, going to Belfast now." So I literally packed my bag on the plane, and then I obviously arrived in Belfast, and I rang Corey. I was like, "I'm here." He's like, "Get in a taxi, get the receipt, and get to the rink." I was like, "What is happening?" Like 2 hours ago, I was on the ice coaching the kids, and it was just a bit like, that's how much it meant, kind of thing to them. It meant a lot to me, obviously, but it was nice that they included me and everything like that. And then I backed up Greener, and I think I got a bit of ice time as well. So it's just a nice experience, really.
Well, I've heard the state of the team for that second game. I had Jordan Fox on here. He told me he had 2 shifts and told Corey I can't play anymore. K-Wall told me he had no intention of playing in that game at all. What do you remember about? Because they must have been riding on the highest of highs after what they've just accomplished the night before. Yeah. What was it like being in that room? I imagine it's a lot of guys going, "Oh, we've got to do this."
Oh yeah. If you put it in this similar perspective to the Sunday 3rd, 4th game. That's where they're at. Like it's kind of Oh, so we're really doing this. There's a lot of grey skin complexions in that room, and like obviously I didn't go out because I was too young, and they didn't let me go out anyway. But there was a lot of grey. Like you look around the room, and there's like loads of weathered men, and then you just pick me out. I'm just sat there really excited, like stuck out like a sore thumb. It's just like. It wasn't a great game to watch, probably. It's probably really slow.
Then the year after is when you go and play for Telford, which is quite was that like a moment where you had to decide whether you wanted to keep pursuing it sort of thing, or if you wanted to quote unquote just go out into the real world full time?
Yeah, real world job. So that year I was playing for the Lions as well. It's when I was signed for the Panthers. And I wanted to progress.
Because Telford's a step above the Lions. It's like Lions, Telford.
It was the EPL at that point.
Because that one's now below the NIHL, isn't it? It's moved around a bit. The standard. The leagues in British hockey confuse me immensely.
Yes, I'm playing in them and it's still confusing. But yeah, so it was the second tier, and it was a step from playing for the Lions where it's a lower level, and then playing in the EPL where there's, I think it was at the time 4 imports, but 4 quality imports. And it was a big jump. I got in on a trial. So Tom Watkins at the time used to run trials for the club. And I was like, I'm just going to go for it kind of thing and see what happens. And I got in, and I was playing with Deck Ryan, who was a former GB goalie.
Manchester.
Manchester. And he's obviously a starter, so I just pinched as many games from him as I could, and then I stuck in Telford. Well, you probably can tell me. Was it 2 years, 3 years?
3.
3 years. So I stuck in Telford for 3.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, okay.
4.
Yeah. So that was when I was training back and forth, I think. So I'd train in the morning here, and then drive up to Telford a couple of nights a week, I think. And it was just a big eye opener again, like being able to.
Because the more you were there, you were getting more starts every year you were in Telford.
Yeah. So obviously it's a nice progression because I got there and didn't get many, and then towards the end I was the starting goalie. And me and Merds, who's in Cardiff, we shared the game. We shared the games the final year we were both there, from what I can remember anyway.
That's cool.
And he's great. And it was just a nice progression from, obviously, like I said, being not much of a starter to, taking control of essentially the season and running with me in playoffs and whatever it was. So it was good. And then playing alongside that and playing in Nottingham as well, massive steps.
And 2014-15, you get a lot of start. That's when you're starting to play more and more for Telford. And I think at this point, you are, after speaking to Gary, you are registered with the Panthers as well at this stage. He's got you under some kind of, you were, like you say, you're training in Nottingham, you're going to play in Telford and things.
Yeah.
And then, you must be dreading me mentioning this, the 24th of February 2015 comes around.
This is another blackout moment for this segment.
It's not allowed to be a blackout moment because Gary has told me to call you all kinds of names about this. I'm not allowed to give you an easy time on this one.
Okay.
The terms Judas has come up, traitor.
Nice.
What did Sheffield pay you to save those penalty shots? All these questions have been risen by Gary because he said, if you'd have told me what the price was, I would have bumped it up to get you to let him in.
The IHL is strict on rules.
So this is a crazy, crazy day. You get signed by Sheffield in the morning because who's their goalie? Is their goalie then? Is it in 14-15? Was it Eunice, Josh Eunice or someone?
Well, no, it was Kevin. Is it Kevin Doyle?
Oh, okay. Yeah, Doyle. Yeah, I remember him.
Doyle. So Doyle started the season with, I must have been Woolhouse backing him up. So Jeff, it was Doyle and the House, and then it was, so Doyle had I think it was knee problems, something like that, and then they signed Josh Eunice straight out of college, I think. So then it was Eunice and House, and then Eunice got hurt. I think it must have been the previous game. Jeff went in that game, and then he got hurt, but he managed to finish the game. And then the following game was obviously the Nottingham Sheffield Challenge Cup game.
So when did Gerald Adams get in touch with you then?
Morning of. Yeah, so I got a text from Tom Watkins, obviously my coach at the time, and he said, I just had a phone call from Gerald Adams. Do you want to play in Nottingham tonight for Sheffield? And I was like, yeah, why not? Like, in my head, I was just like, he didn't mention playing, like playing. And in my head, I was like, oh, just back up the Woolhouse. It'd be a great night. Probably get some stick, be funny. And then I was like, yeah, what time do I need to be there? And he's like, 2 hours before, make sure you beat the bus there. And then I was like, oh, okay. Then he was like, you are playing, by the way. I was like, oh, yeah. He was like, you want to play? I was like, yeah, why not? Like, I didn't really gauge what I just said I'd do.
Because it's also quick.
Yeah. So I was like on the way to the gym or something ridiculous. So I didn't go. And then literally as soon as I said yes, Simsy got in touch, got my number, rang me, and he was like, hey Sam, like Simsy here, I'm just trying to check out all your details and everything. What number do you want to wear? And I was like, well, I wear 31. But I was like, oh, I know Josh Eunice plays in 31. He's like, no trouble, we'll get you 31. It's your show tonight, blah, blah, blah. I was like, this is amazing. Like, it's so, he gets a lot of sticks, Simsy, but he is a good person.
When I've had conversations with him in person, he's been fine. It's his persona that I take umbrage with.
Yeah,
he's created.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, but at the time he was great. Like, and then it was O'Connor's dad as well that helped me as well, get me involved and everything. And then like he was like, right, kid, I'll see you at the rink. Make sure you beat the bus there. And like, obviously the Panthers room's on the right, and the Sheffield get changed under the corridor. The away team, sorry. And I was sat there with my kit bag. I probably got there like 3 hours before the game. And like even like the rink staff were like, are you lost? Like I was like, no, I'm here for the game tonight. Like they're probably thinking like, why is this kid here? Like ringing the control room saying there's a kid in the corridor. Can we get rid of him? But yeah, so I beat the bus, and then it was like, this is Gerald Adams. I said, hi Jared, nice to meet you. He was like, yeah, you're playing tonight, have a good time, enjoy it, don't worry about anything, because they were obviously behind on the deficit.
They're 3 goals behind.
Yeah, so
this is a dark day in Panthers history. I was in the stands, I was a fan. You broke my heart that night.
So it was obviously tough time, but I thoroughly enjoyed every minute. I can remember before the game, we came into the room, and obviously I was sitting there sweating buckets, like with nerves. Obviously yesterday, it was probably the week before, I was on the ice with the guys training, and then he came in, he put his arm around, he was like, don't worry tonight, kid, just have fun, don't worry about a thing, we'll talk after the game and see how you get on. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, just started shaking. And then he was like, one thing. I was like, what? He said, don't come out your net. So like he literally told me, don't come and play the puck. Like about anything, don't come out your net. So he's obviously probably watched highlights of me missing pucks and stuff behind the net. But he was like, don't come out of the net. And like, I feel like Nottingham twigged pretty quick. So every play, they rim the puck, anything, chip it close to me. And I was obviously just stood in my net like, I'm not allowed to play this. But then like the D-men were getting hammered behind the net because they obviously knew that I'm not coming out. So it's just a bit like, I would stop the puck as best I can and not come out of the net.
Like, if you're looking at that game as a neutral, it was a crazy game. Like it was up and down. Like I think Sheffield went 3-0 up really quickly. Nottingham pulled it back. You have that really weird goal where Boxhill scored off a face-off, which I've never. Which must. I can't imagine. Like what the hell was that?
Obviously, he just realised it was me in there. But I was probably just sort of looking around, not knowing what's going on. But he hammered that puck off the face-off. And like I kind of just looked and I was like, oh, that was terrible.
Hey, it happens. It happens.
But yeah, crazy game, crazier scoreline.
And it goes to a shootout. And then obviously, you're trained, like you say, you're training with these guys in the week and stuff. Did that help you going into that shootout? Like, you know what guys like Larry likes to go 5-hole, slow it down and try and jam it through. Yeah, Bruce is a bit slower and tries to go around you. Like, that was not easier, but did it help you settle more?
I'd probably call it like slightly educated on what was happening. And it was just a bit like, you know what? When the game finished, I skated to the bench and I was like, oh, is that it? And they were like, no, we've got a shootout. Go back. I was like, oh my. So it was quite good because I wasn't nervous because it was just like sprung on me. We're doing a shootout. And then he was like, yeah, go back. You're doing a shootout. I was like, oh, okay. And then it was, I can't remember who was first. It was Bruce that was first.
I think Bruce was last. I think Chris normally went first. I can't remember who was second, but I know.
It must have been it was Farm.
Farmer, yeah.
Yeah. And he, like, Bruce came wide and then slow, and he like shot, I think it was like low blocker, I think. And I got, like, I feel like it might have been lucky, I don't know, but I got a piece of it and I was like, this is okay. Like, I can do this. And obviously you get a bit more confident, and then like we went down and I think, was it Mosienko? I think Mosienko went round Killer and scored. And like, the weird thing was, watching Killer down the other end, it was so confusing because last week we were doing shootouts anyway, like in training probably. And it was just a bit like, it's incredible. Like, we're 1-0 up and I'm beating Killer. Like, what is going on? And then Farms came down and like, I know Farms and forehand, backhand, glove. And I was like, he's going to do it. And then like, I got a piece of it on the glove side. And I can remember Gary's commentary. He was like, did that go in? That must have went in, like, going crazy. And then it did, obviously, like, I think the ref was, he waved it off and it didn't go in. And I got a piece of it. And like, all the boys on the bench were like tapping me on the head. Like they probably couldn't believe what was happening. And I think we scored it, Sheffield scored again. And I was like, this is insane. And then Larry came down, and I didn't know much about him. I didn't spend a lot of that year. I didn't spend a lot of time there because it was shared. And Larry came down, and he came real close, real slow, and it was kind of a weird thing to be able to. I didn't really know what he was going to do, and he just sort of shot it, and it kind of squeaked under my arm and got a bit of block, a bit of pad, and it just went off to the side, and I kind of just. Like, obviously the air, all the air is like gone from the arena, like that kind of feeling, like everyone's just gasped, like they've just done it. And I kind of like looked to the bench and I was like, they were like screaming on the bench, off the bench towards me. I was like, oh, we've won. I was like, oh yeah. Because it was just weird. Like, I didn't really recognize what was happening. And they were, and like, it was just such good fun. And it was just a crazy game. But it's a job.
Like I said, all the jokes are there to be made, but that's what they are. They are jokes. For you personally, that must have been a career highlight even to this day, just because of you're a 20-year-old kid who gets thrown into this morning of. Like that must, and I imagine even people like Corey might have joked with you about it, but I imagine at some point people on that Panthers team did congratulate you.
Yeah, I can remember, like, immediately, I can remember going down the line and like, obviously, like, Lacko, all the guys were like, oh, nice game. Like, great job, kid. And obviously, Killer was at the back, and we shook hands, and he was like, that was incredible. Like, you played so well. Like, just a normal conversation. Obviously, I'm sure he was gutted that they did lose, but it was so nice. And I can see it, I can remember seeing it on the video, and it was so nice to watch us shake hands, and he like put his arm around me. He was like whispered in my ear, like, great job, kid, like, you were incredible, like, totally deserved it. And like, as I skate away, it gives him a massive slap on my back, like as he would. But it was just a nice little moment. Like, there's that, obviously he didn't want me to win because it's a competitive game, but it's done and said and done, and I managed to do it. And he was just so normal about it, and he was just like, realized the moment for me, and it was just so nice. And then I don't think I even made it round to the benches. So I went back round to the Sheffield bench, and like, Jared put his arm around me, and all the guys just piled on. And I can remember Robert Dowd, we were in like the huddle after the game, and he just tore my helmet off. And that's when you know, when, I don't know if you've seen it, like the pictures of all this, I had such long hair. I had all this hair, and I was just like bright red because I was embarrassed and everything. And it was just like, he ripped my helmet off. And he was like, everyone needs to see your face. I was like, oh my God. And he was just a bit like, I was like clapping. And I remember seeing a picture and the game puck's in my hand. And I was like clapping along with this game puck in my hand. And I've still got it somewhere, but yeah, it was cool.
And that kind of, was it back to Panthers training the next day on the Wednesday?
Oh, I don't know. I really can't remember, but I'm sure Gary will let you know on that one. He probably told me to stay away for a little bit.
More like you were staying away from him.
Yeah. Where's the rink again? I can't remember. No,
I'm lost. My car's broke down.
Yeah.
Well, you had long hair, like you say. You're washing your hair.
Yeah, exactly. You know it.
I know all about it. Trust me. And then that year's a pretty cool year for you as well, because you have quite a bit of success with Telford. You win the EPIHL, you win the EPIHL Cup. Now,
Yeah.
what I can't tell is if you started in any of these games that you won and stuff.
Yeah, so I think
because you said you were splitting. So did you start in
Yeah.
any of the cup games or the league games, or how did that work?
Yeah, we split it straight down the middle. So it was just a call on Tom's watch whether he wanted me or Merds in, and it was just like we had such a good little tandem going, and we're quite similar goalies anyway. And we had this good tandem where we just played. If you're going, you support him. If you're not, you love vice versa kind of thing. And it was just, and that team was so good for that level. That team was unbelievable. That we played really well, and we managed to get it done eventually.
And then obviously that's your first, like, I'm going to call it a quote unquote proper championship, because you are credited with being an EIHL champion because you're in that game. So how much did being around those environments help you when it came to the run-ins for those trophies? So you're around guys like Jordan Fox, David Ling, David Clark, all these people. How much does that help you when it comes to you playing in a championship game?
A lot. Like, you just learn how these players react in their own games, and like it's nice when you're in that situation yourself. You can think, oh, you just relax and you just play. Like if I wasn't fortunate enough to be in those situations with Nottingham, then it'd be a different story kind of thing. But yeah, it helps you massively being around guys and learning how they react to something, so you can just do the same. And then we go on this cup run, and with Telford and the league, I think we lost like 3 games all year or something.
Oh wow,
ridiculous. I can remember you could count the games we lost on one hand that year, and it was like that early year, the 2012 year. It was just a good room, good people, good everything, really good environment to be around, and that's how you create success.
And to mention David Clark, then obviously you're a fan of the team. You know who David Clark is. What's it like when you actually get to be around him? Because I remember like when I first met him, and he's the nicest guy. He's genuinely the nicest guy in the world. Yeah. Like that is so cool for him for what his legend is and who he is in the game, for him to be how he is. And I imagine it's tenfold for people who go into the room as well, not just like off ice people. Like for you as an on ice player, I imagine he is so important for helping you settle and everything. Yeah,
no, he's another guy that just puts his arm around you and takes you under his wing kind of thing, and he just teaches you how to be a pro. And he's like the ultimate pro. Like I can remember like he used to say when we were younger, like, come to the rink dressed appropriately. Don't come in like trackies and like a baggy t-shirt. Come in like jeans, shoes, a nice like, casual attire where you just bring the right mentality to it. You want to come, you want to learn, you want to be better, and like doing all the little things away from the ice makes you such a good professional on the ice. Like, and he's just a massive advocate for it, because he just presents himself in this amazing way, and it's not even a lie, because he is like he's just this good person, kind, and like even the stuff he's doing now with Clark and Co. And I coached on it before the most recent lockdown, and he helps the kids like he used to help me. So it's just him all over.
He's just the nicest, just genuinely the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
And then you carry after that year with Telford, where you're winning these trophies and you've played in that game for Sheffield. You kind of roll on with Telford, but are you getting calls from elite league teams at this point, or are you very much, I want to play as much as I can, I want to stay in Telford, but if something comes up, I'll think about it? Yeah,
so at that point we won the double, and then I was set. I was sticking around in Telford. Like, I moved into the team house and everything. I kind of set up a little bit more there, and then I didn't get many elite league calls, if any. I don't think that year. And then we did another double, I think.
You definitely won more trophies with Telford.
Yeah, so we did another one, and that season was wild because the whole club went through bankruptcy again.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that the second time we won the league, I can remember we played from October till I feel like February without a penny paid. So like
Jesus.
yeah,
Love of
so
the
like
game.
yeah, so like we were like, oh, they'll pay us this week, they'll pay us next week, they'll pay us next month. Oh, well, they'll pay us now. When are they going to pay? It just progressed into, are we even going to get paid? And it's a job at the end of the day, isn't it? So it's a job. Like if you went to work on a 9 to 5 and you didn't get paid, you'd raise a few questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we can't. There's a lot of times like the club was like, this is happening. We have no money. I think it's a program on TV. It's like can't pay or take it away, and then pay at the bailiffs.
I love that.
The bailiffs come and everything, and it's so good to watch. But they came to the rink and they're like, "We need all your assets and like everything." It got that serious, and it was just a bit like, is this happening?" And there was a point in January, I think we had like a group picture. After there was people that had left, jumped ship, everything like that. But the final few players, I'm talking 10 of us maybe, and we had loads of guys training up and playing for us, and whatever town we were in, we kind of pinched a few guys, and we just struggled through. And I don't even know how we managed to win a trophy, but it was another year where it was the club, like the players that were involved. It was just amazing people like Weaves, who was in Nottingham for a little bit. He was there, and Doug Clarkson that was in Cardiff.
And Dundee.
Massive presence, massive person, literally. And they just led the team. And like that year I played, I feel like the majority of the games anyway. And we just ran with it. And we just played games.
You kept a goals against average of under 3 that year. So despite all that, you are playing pretty well in net. And I imagine with the trials and tribulations, I imagine you're facing a lot of rubber at that point as well.
Yeah, like that was a crazy year because like we'd outscore teams, but we'd outscore teams with 13, 14 players. And it was just wild and then we started creating this run where we were like, we haven't lost a game since we last got paid kind of thing. And we made a joke of it, but obviously it was serious. But it was just that I think we sat down in December and said like, as a group, no management, no anyone, and said like this, right, what are we doing? Like, are we going to carry on? We're 20 points ahead of the second place. Like, this is too good to throw away because we're not getting paid. And we'll just cross that bridge when we come to it kind of thing. And it was just like, we're just going to go for it. Like, forget the stuff off the ice. Just play hockey, enjoy it. We're going to help each other, give each other whatever money we can. Like, just live with each other and enjoy it again. And it was nice after that because we kind of took away from all the money side issues. And it was just like, let's play hockey. Let's just enjoy it. Let's win the trophy. And then let's have a massive argument with the owners after.
And then after that year, that's when you do make the decision to go to Nottingham full time. Because obviously Dan retired. Dan retires at that point. I imagine Corey's straight on the phone to you the minute he finds that out.
Yeah. So that year the
decision
EPL
of your life.
Easy. Yeah, that year the EPL collapsed.
Okay.
So we won the cup and the league, I think. And then that year the EPL collapsed. So then it became, whatever it is now. Well, a couple of years ago when it was a complete mess of teams and whatever. So then it was a case of, I want to be in the top flight. Like Corey got in touch with me. And then like within a couple of days I was signed in. That was fine. Like everything was great. So it was an easy jump to come back. And obviously I'm familiar with the surroundings anyway. And then that's obviously when I said earlier, Corey turns to me and goes, "You didn't grow anymore." So it's just it was good. It was nice to be back and in a full-time position as well.
And then one of the really cool things I imagine for you is you find out that your goalie partner that year is going to be Michael Garner, who's got all this KHL experience. Then a few months later, you find out Patrick Galbraith's being added to this incredible roster of goalies, which I will still to this day defend is probably the best trio of netminders ever in an elite league team. For you as the British one, and then the two other guys. What was it like working with those two? So you've sung Patrick's praises to me earlier and stuff, but just do it on record now.
Like both of them are just they're very different people. And like
That's just one way to put it.
Yeah, like, but yeah, working with those, I got the best of both. Like when I was before Patrick came in, I was just obviously working with Michael, and he plays old school, put it that way. And it was kind of like it was a lot of mental stuff. He really helped me away from the ice. And then obviously when Patrick came in, he's this amazingly technical goaltender, and you watch him and he's got all these small movements that just create a really pleasing performance in net. And then that's what I learned from him as well, like the mechanics of goaltending and how it works. And it was just a really good year to learn both aspects of goaltending, really.
And Michael, he is a guy who, he had a persona about him, a bit of an aloof, shall we say.
Yeah.
When you get him talking hockey, he's very switched on. He can talk properly. You've just got to get through.
Yeah.
You've just got to get through that little first barrier and give him his, as I used to call it, his Michael Garnett time for like 2 or 3 minutes. And then he
once you get past it, once you get past his little spiel, put it that way.
I love him, but that is what you have to get through.
Yeah, and I can he is behind. After that, he is intelligent. He's switched on. He's very clever anyway, and he's just a really good goaltender anyway. And he played this unorthodox style, and I can remember watching highlights of him in the KHL and just crazy stuff. But it was more of a stop the puck at all costs, and that was really good to learn as well. But yeah, he did a lot of work with me, put it that way.
And then you get the best seat in the house for probably his best performances are in the CHL. What was it like sitting and watching him from the bench in the game against Turku, against Bern? What do you learn from watching him in that environment? Because that's as high a level as it gets.
Yeah, he just, as we say, he just turned it on. Like he was just incredible. Like he just brought these performances night after night, after travel days and everything like that. I can remember Patrick saying about all the travel we were doing that year. And it was just, he brought these performances night in, night out against arguably the best teams in the tournament, and playing like Michael played in Bern anyway, so he knew their organisation. So I'm sure that was a huge motivator to play well. And even in Bern, when we went there and we lost, he still put up really good numbers and made these amazing saves and everything. But I can remember when they came here, I think, did we win? I think it's 3-2 or something like 3-1. I don't know.
Bern 4-2 here.
Oh, okay.
Because
that game,
because that's the one where Jeff went coast to coast.
Yeah. I get the score against Giannoni, which is just insane. And it was just like, it was just incredible. Yeah. And he just put up these amazing numbers, and he was just a massive pleasure to watch, because he was like, I don't know how to describe it. He just turned it on. He just really played amazing hockey.
That year was kind of, I call it a crazy year, because you had obviously the high of the CHL thing, which obviously is such a mentally taxing thing to be a part of for that group, to turn it on for that and then go, then it's not meant disrespectful, but to go and play in that, then go and play away at Dundee is a hard thing to get your head around as a player. Like I spoke to Jeff Brown about it, and he says it's not an excuse. It's just it's different, and you've got to get around for it.
Of course it is. Yeah.
But two of the big things that happened that year is, first of all, it's announced that Corey is leaving.
Yeah.
And obviously he's the only really coach of the Panthers you've ever known while you've been involved with the organisation. He's your guy. And then it's announced Clarkie's retiring. What does that do to that locker room? Because of who they are, their status in the British game.
Yeah.
To have both of them say they're not coming back is.
It was weird. It was like a hit, but then it was like, oh my God. Like in terms of myself, I was like, that's all I've known. Like I don't know. Like when at that time, I was like, that's Panthers to me. Like Clarkie, Mizey was there, and like Stevie Lee Lacko, Ollie Palms, like, and Clarkie and Corey, and like that's all I knew. And it was like, because it was hard. I don't know what year I was in my contract, and I was like, hang on a minute, do I have a job next year? Like that kind of thing as well. And I'm sure a lot of guys around the room are like, what's happening? Like, because they obviously they were playing before me, but it was still a bit like, that's all I've known. Like, what kind of situation is it going to be now? Like, am I going to be able to have a laugh and a joke with the new guy? Or, you know what I mean? At the time, it was like, oh, okay. But it was a hit. And it was a weird kind of thing because like Clarkie's obviously retiring, and it was like, let's do it for Clarkie. And then it was like, oh, let's do it for Corey as well. Like, it matters just as much. It was just a weird environment.
It's like I said to Patrick today, it's a testament to the professionalism of that group that they didn't switch off to Corey. Like that whole group wanted to send him and David off on the highest of heights. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but that wasn't because they didn't want to.
Yeah,
they stuck with it despite that was happening.
Yeah, it was just a testament to every guy in the room. Like, obviously, every person has different commitment levels, and that's normal in an organization. But it seemed like we were just wanting to do it for those guys. And like, why wouldn't you? Like, the careers they both put up, and not only just in Nottingham, like, why wouldn't you want to do it for guys like that? And it just became this environment where it was like, do it for those guys, not yourself. So yeah, it was special.
And that's it. The running doesn't go as planned. Yeah, there's this incredible game against Belfast in the quarterfinals of the playoffs. Get knocked out in the semi-finals, and then it comes to the third, fourth place game like we mentioned today. No one really wants to be involved in it, but it's a chance for guys like you to play and showcase yourselves.
Yeah, of course it is.
Now tell me about this goalie change on the fly, because I want to know how scripted this was, or if you had any clue that Michael was going to do that to you.
Oh yeah, I was fully aware. So Michael made it very clear he didn't want to play, and I was like, yes, I'm going to get the whole game. Like, this is going to be wicked. And then Corey said, well, you're going to start the game, and then Michael says, well, I'm going to do a fly change then. And then Corey was kind of like, no, you're not. And then he was like, I am. And then it kind of, obviously the game, I can't remember what the score was, it doesn't really matter. And it was obviously second period, and Corey was like, I'm not controlling this. This is on you. Like, looking down at me, I was like, oh, okay. And it was like halfway through the second or something. And I look over, and Michael was like at the hash marks, waving at me. I'm like, goody, he's coming. Get my stuff. And I'm standing on the bench, like, you know, like players are like one leg over, and like the player gets chipped down, and Michael just guns it towards the bench. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going. And Goody was like, give me a slap on the back to wake me up. And he was like, go. And then I can remember like skating past him. I think we high-fived on the way past or something ridiculous. So it's a pro game and in front of thousands. And then it was like, I turned round and Mike was on the bench, and I was skating backwards, like celebrating because we managed to do this this goalie change. And then like Hicksy came by, I think. He was like, when did you get in here? I was like, oh, he just changed on the fly. He was like, okay. It's just, you can't even script it. And then I can remember watching the highlights, and I think he sent me the video. And then the commentary was like, Sam Gospel's in. Like, when did that happen? He was like, I don't know. It's just a bit like, what just happened? And like half the fans kind of saw it, and then half, because the play was the other end. And
I didn't see it. I was up in the box and I didn't see it.
Exactly, that's what I mean. So it's just a bit like, when did that happen? And I was like, you get loads of I got loads of messages like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, never seen a goalie change, and it was just cool. Like, just so much fun. And that's Michael. Like, he could play really good, and then he could have such a good laugh as well.
Yeah. Well, it's also something to make that game fun. And as much as people don't want to play in that game, it gave an opportunity for Clarkie to have a couple of nice moments where there was like 5 when he was trying to score and the goalie wasn't the only player not on script was a Fives goalie was not on board with the plan.
Yeah, Marzi. I can remember the whole arena booing when he made a save.
Because Clarkie had to have like a 10-minute shift that he couldn't breathe.
Yeah. I can't remember where we were after. We were talking to the Five guys, and like the new imports that year were like, what was happening? Like, we were told to get out of the way of Clarkie just so we could rip one by the goalie.
And then I think it was like Russ Moyer had to bend down and tell Remy Mara, just like, please let him score.
Yeah. I remember seeing it. I was just like, God, just let him in, let him go. Just let it in. It doesn't matter. I'll probably let 12 in by now. It's fine.
And then that year comes to a close. Obviously, Corey does move on. Rich Chernamaz comes in. You would have obviously had to have spoken to Rich. He was at that play. Everyone knows now he was at that playoff weekend. He was watching, sat in Brayhead's box. Unbeknownst to me, I had no idea. I just saw this old guy in there and I was like, who's that? Everyone's like, I don't know. Did you have conversations with him leading up to the next year? Because obviously Michael's coming back. And then at that point, he's just you and him because Patrick Munson doesn't come involved until November.
Yeah. So it was... So at playoffs, before playoffs, Goody put his arm around me. He was like, just to let you know, new guy's here. So he knew. So I was like, oh man, I've got to play really well. And fortunately enough, that Fife game, like I played out of my mind.
You did a lot of good saves, I remember.
For the relative level of alcoholism involved, I played very well. So I was like trying, obviously, to show him that I can play. I'm fine playing at this level and everything like that. And then he rang me. Well, I didn't hear anything. So I reached out to him and he was like, don't worry, kid. I'm going to get back to you. Because I feel like when you're under 25, every person calls you kid. But yeah, so I reached out to him because I was like getting nervous. Like, I don't know what's happening. And obviously he was busy signing all the imports and creating a team. And he got back to me. He was like, yeah, you're coming back. I want you to play more games this year. You've got a bigger role. You'll be pushing Michael, everything like that. And I was really happy. It was a really good start to the year. But yeah.
And I remember you had an early start you got a start in Fife. You got a start in Sheffield, I think.
Yeah.
There's one like really unlucky bounce you had in Sheffield that if it wasn't for that, you would have got a win in that game.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah.
Then Patrick comes in and that kind of changes because there were a lot of injuries that year as well. So guys are always hurt, and there's always an import slot open, and unfortunately, the way it works is that the backup goalie then becomes the import because that's just unfortunately the way of the leagues. Well, now again, like I said before, you had two different characters in Patrick Galbraith and Michael Garnett. Patrick Munson's a little closer to Michael Garnett than Patrick Galbraith was in terms of flamboyance and character. What was it like working with Patrick Munson?
Packy was just he was so alike to myself. Like he's obviously way more flamboyant than me and a bigger character, but we got on like a house on fire. We like struck up this like bromance and we were like having a great time. And like even we text now and I text him over, we just talk and it's just a lot of fun. And I can remember like when he left, we had this joke on Twitter and it was like, oh, I miss you. Like, loads of people got involved and it was so much fun. But we struck up this really cool little relationship. And I can remember a couple of days every practice and we train as goalies and then we both get our kit off and go back on as players. And we'd just be slapping the puck around to each other. I was just having a good time. And it was cool because we just, like I said, create this really cool tandem and triplet tandem thing. I don't know. And it was cool because Michael was like obviously the older guy and he kind of looked after us and like we were just having a great time. And then it was like, oh, we need to actually play hockey and enjoy it and learn. And yeah, it was just good. Great guy.
Then say, how important was it for you? Because that you went back to Telford to go and play just to get some game time under your belt.
Yeah.
Did you need that at that point? Because you weren't getting the starts I think you were promised or you were expecting to get after your conversations. I'm guessing, did you go to Rich and say, I want to go and play in Telford? Or was it the guy there, Tom Watkins, who says, do you want to come and get some game time?
It was a mix of both. So I spoke to Rich and I said, I need to play. And he was, explained the situation in Nottingham and Packy coming in and, the ice time wasn't there because we're at a crucial point in the season. And I just, I said to him, like, I need to play games and I can reach out to guys. I know Tom, I know anyone else. And that year I played for Hull as well on loan. I don't think it's on Elite Prospects anymore because it comes as a loan game.
Oh, okay.
So I was on loan in Hull for 3 games, I think. I played really well. Like over the 3 games, I was at like 96% or something ridiculous. I let like there must have been like 0.1 against or, had a great time. And then I remember Hewitt kind of saying like, well, how's it going to work going forward? And I said, well, Nottingham hold the rights to me. So I can't come and play if they say no. And obviously that didn't work for him. So he signed another guy, I can't remember. So then I said to Tom, oh, can I play this is the terms. do you want me to play? And he like thankfully accepted. So then it was a case of I play in Telford if Mike and Packy are playing. If I'm needed to back up, then it's a decision to be made by both parties. But yeah, so then I played in Telford and carried on playing really well, good numbers, like 92 probably there, I don't know. It worked out because I got to play again, and it was what I needed.
And then another, I say quote unquote, it's unfortunate for you, is that the next year, Jackson Whistle falls in the lap of the Panthers because of how things broke down for him in Sheffield. And obviously that's a starting netminder coming in to back up Kevin Carr as starting netminder.
Yeah.
And it's just so unfortunate on your side that that's just how it played out. What did Guy Doucette reach out to you at that point and just explain to you what was happening?
Yeah, so Guy spoke to me and he explained like how it's progressing and what's happening, and he spoke to me and said he does want me back, and this was before Jack Wiss signed, and I was like, well, I need what's the game time going to be? And at the end of the day, it's a professional business, isn't it? So
you want to play, you don't want to sit on the bench doing nothing.
Exactly. So at that point, I needed to play. So I said, "Oh, look, Leeds have been in touch, but it's a brand new franchise. It's all like really exciting and everything like that." So I said, like, I'm happy to continue like I used to when I was younger, to do the training in the morning and then play elsewhere. So yeah, again, that was another year where I did play in Leeds, and then I trained every morning here in Nottingham. So it was another best of both worlds for me, really. And
then when you're around that group last year, like the one point I remember throughout the whole recruitment process for Guy and Tim was, this guy's a great guy. This guy's a great guy. I couldn't believe when it actually turned out to be true. Everyone on that team last year was genuinely the nicest person ever. What was it like for you being involved in that group throughout the week, sort of thing? Because obviously you're there with Jackson and Kevin, two different characters.
Yeah.
But like Kevin's really quiet, gets on with what he does. Jackson's a bit more, flamboyant sort of thing. And then Tim's obviously way different to Rich was, and way different to Corey in a sense. But like, how did you feel that group was different last year to what you've been around before?
It was different because I was slightly older as well. So at this point, I'm no longer the young kid in the room. Like there's way younger guys than me now, and it was a different feel because like me and Jackson are similar ages. Kevin's not a million, like 29, I think. I'm not sure.
He's not 30.
No, so he's not a million miles away anyway. So it was nice, a young group of goalies, and it was a youngish player group. And then like when they signed Jens and a couple of older guys, and it was, like you said, they were all good people. And I felt like at that point, obviously I was still, I feel like you'd call it part-time with Nottingham. So even with that going on, I still felt like I had more of a voice in the room. Because I'm not an outspoken person, and I am quiet, and you know that. But yeah,
I can't believe I've got you to talk for this long.
Yeah, how long's it been? But yeah, it was a different feel. Like obviously Tim's a player's coach rather than a sort of like he didn't watch over. He joined in. He put himself in the group kind of thing, and he coached that way. And that was a different thing for me to learn from as well. I've never had a coach that really put himself as part of the group and the boys, as we say, and it was a good environment to be in again. So I was fortunate.
And you and Tim always had the nice duels at training. I always had the pleasure of watching those. Him and his slap shots, you stop it. He described you to me as his nemesis.
Yeah, so it started off so innocent, and then it became this, he has to score past me every session. And then I became this, Tim's not scoring. Like, I am not letting him score. And then it would be like Tim would join in like the shootout drills at the end, and obviously I let a few in, and then like I'd just make it my aim to ruin his training. Like I'd just do my utmost to not let him score. And like I'll call it squeak a few by, but he'd probably say blow it by me. But it just turned into this battle of wills who could crack first, and it was just good fun. And I've never experienced that as a player with a coach, so it was cool. It was a lot of fun.
I think that's one of the things that's really evident, because obviously he'd just come off being player coach in Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
So and obviously Nottingham's a different environment to Milton Keynes, but when Nottingham played Milton Keynes when he was the coach, you could tell that group was together. And he was very good at. He's very good at bringing a group together. That's obviously one of his strengths. Then you look at. I remember when I talked to Jason DeSantis on here before he left. He said that Tim brought all the drills they were doing. Jason remembers doing in the AHL when he played with Tim, and he just absorbed these NHL drills, brought them with him, and then he's got all that on top of being the players guy. He's in a role he was destined to be in.
Definitely. He's a good coach, really good stat guy.
I call him a nerd. Like, I call him a nerd all the time.
Hockey nerd, yeah. And that's the best thing most of the time. Like, if you're a hockey nerd, you are on the right path. It's if you can learn the game and then teach it, then you're onto a winner.
Is he keeping in touch with you whilst you're playing, like asking how it's going in Leeds and making sure you're okay stuff then? Because you're playing a lot in Leeds. You get 41 starts in Leeds in the regular season last year. Yeah, that must be brilliant for you.
I think I missed 2 games through suspension.
I've got that on my notepad. This is funny, yeah. I can't wait to get into this in a second.
Oh, cool. But so I missed 2, but like probably every weekend I get a text on Monday from either Guy or Tim saying, "How was it? How'd you get on?" And whether it be a Friday saying, "Good luck, enjoy it, I'll see you Tuesday." And it was just nice to have that contact where, yes, I wasn't around at the weekends at all. I don't think that last year. And it was just
I think you got roped into commentary in a midweek game once.
I did, yeah.
You walked in when Gary was there. You would have got away with it.
Yes, I remember. Yeah. And I kind of looked at you and you were like, oh. I was like, oh, no.
2 minutes, he'd have been down the other end of the hall and never seen you.
Exactly. But punctual, I'll call it. But yeah, they were both really good at keeping an eye on me and talking and checking everything's okay, and it was nice. And then there was obviously a lot of weekends where Wiss played, and every weekend Wiss played, I'd get the call from Guy saying, "Don't suppose you want to back up, do you?" And I'm, well, unfortunately, no, because I'm going to play. But he understood anyway, so it was nice to develop a relationship that way.
Well, it's also like you say, it's nice that they're still thinking about you. They haven't forgot about you because you're at Leeds. Because technically, you were still a Panthers player on some level. Because that's what they had to approve you going to play for Leeds with Sam Zajac and stuff. Yeah, but how? Yeah, so I had to sign something. Sorry, carry on. Sorry.
No, I was just saying I had to sign something to say Panthers are letting me, but they still like early in my career where they still regain control. And
if someone got hurt, you would have had to come to Nottingham. That was the main rule. Yeah. But then, let's say 41 starts in Leeds. You're part of this really exciting, this brand new team, brand new project, playing just up from Ellen Road. What's it like being part of that? Because I can't. I'm going to say I imagine it's really cool, and you're going to tell me it's really cool. But tell me how cool it actually is.
It was like, obviously it was so cool. It was so exciting being a part of something brand new, because like we all signed because how many times in a career do you get to be a brand new franchise? And it's obviously an opportunity I'm going to snap up anyway. And like when Sam, I played with him, Telford, and he's like an elite league veteran anyway, so just a good person as well. And he rang me, he was like, blah 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 blah, and I was like, yeah, obviously, like this is so cool, and like the new rink, and it's the old big blue tent, and it's just so exciting. And yeah, it was the cool thing was, as when we eventually got in to the rink,
because you had this build up to getting in there, didn't you? Which was that I remember talking to you in midweeks and stuff, and you were like, "We're going to play there," and it was like, "Well, it's been delayed a little bit," and then you finally get in there.
Yeah, it was. I think we were going to play there in November, and it ended up being February. But there was every week it was like, "Oh, next weekend." But yeah, we got in eventually, and once we got in, within obviously it was only like probably 2 months before obviously it got cut off, and we managed to build this massive fan base from obviously nothing, and it was so cool. Like the low ceiling, terribly cold. One problem.
Well, it's the tent, wasn't it? It's the tent from Cardiff.
It was the tent, yeah. So the frame was the tent, and then they built obviously a big structure around it. But it was so cool watching week in, week out. Not on the same level as obviously Nottingham, but watching people come in through the door week in, week out, and building this franchise, and it was cool. And then we got on a bit of a tear. Like we weren't a winning team, by any stretch. But
no new team ever is, apart from the Golden Knights. They're the only one.
Yeah. But on a personal level, I had a great year. I feel like I played really well. Like, I won
Netminder of the Year.
Yeah, and I was really happy. Like, I wasn't on a winning team, but I was 4th in the stats. Like, something, in my opinion, I thought that was really cool. But yeah, it was such a good year. Good people again. Another topsy-turvy year. Like, at one point we were playing out of Blackburn, which is obviously 2-3 hours away from here, and
you also played a home game in the other team's rink, didn't you? You were like the home team, but you were playing in Milton Keynes as an example.
Yeah, that was terribly embarrassing. So, like, there was obviously arena full of away fans, sorry. And then they announced us, like the big entrance, like they turned the MK rink blue, and it was just like, here comes your Leeds Chiefs. And it was just a bit like you come out, step onto the ice and kind of turn to the announcer and be like, come on, like, really? And then obviously it's like you can hear cricket. It's like this big show of lights, and like all of us come flying out, and it's just every fan sat there like just sort of waiting for MK to come out. And it was just bizarre. Like, I'd never want to experience it again.
And one of the cool things though is that, because obviously you're so known for being a Panther and stuff, Panthers fans take an interest in Leeds because you're there. Did you feel that the Panthers fans like following you with Leeds?
Definitely. Yeah. So there'd be fans popping up in Telford when we went there as an away team, and like Peterborough, MK as well. So, and all Sheffield, and then Steelers fans came down as well, which was really cool. And then like any sort of Midlandish team, there'd be fans from Nottingham cropping up and tracking me and following me, and that's a nice experience to have as well.
Yeah, and obviously, like, netminding is a position where people develop. Netminders play later into their careers. They develop a bit later on than like forwards develop first, then defensemen, then netminders. That's the process of it all. So, is the goal for you? Because like you're obviously a goal-orientated person. You've got ambitions. You want to play. You're not content with sitting on the bench. Is your goal starting netminder in the Elite League for not just the Panthers, but just starting netminder in the Elite League? Is that the end ambition?
Of course it is. It's a target I've had since 16, 17. Whenever when I broke through into Nottingham, it was like, right, that's what I want. And over the years, it is hard. I'm not going to lie. It's incredibly hard to gain that notoriety, to find a starting role. But what would have been the start of, this season, what would have been, at the end of last season, I had offers. Obviously, I had offers in Leeds, a few teams around the country. And it was really nice to get agents calling me saying, there's a team in Germany, there's a team in France, there's a team in here. And that was really nice to get those opportunities, and probably should have accepted them knowing the current climate, but you live and learn. But it was like, if I did accept it, and obviously the world didn't go crazy, but it could have been, another step in the right direction. Because as soon as you go to Europe and it's a bit more notoriety,
you just got to get in there.
Yeah, and then it can obviously come back round into a path back into the Elite League, but you just have to play. So that's obviously the target.
Yeah, so as a British, goalie, then I've always had this thought, like, do you think like the Elite League should introduce something like, where British goalies have to play in the Challenge Cup? It has to be your British goalies that start, because I've spoken to imports, the Challenge Cup's a bit funny for them because they don't really know how it works. It's a strange competition in general. Would you like to see something like that implemented to give more of it? Because that's something I've mentioned. When I've talked to people, that's what I do this with the Challenge Cup to freshen it up and give it its own feel. Obviously, someone who had like Jackson Whistle, that it is what it is. That's how it falls.
Well, he's a Brit, so yeah. But yeah, no. I'm a huge advocate for pushing British hockey, in terms of homegrown talent, obviously. But I feel like there needs to be that progression in some sort of format where you can push Brits to play. Like, obviously, I'm a goalie, but it is more difficult to get a goalie into a game being a Brit. And if there's a rule or legislation in place where you can push someone into the net and get them game time they need, and then you can only progress it. Like, in my, like, the Challenge Cup's obviously a trophy that you know, you want to win. You want to win all trophies, but I feel like having so much experience in the Elite League, you see that once you kind of fall out of contention for the Challenge Cup, players don't care as much. And it shouldn't be like that, because you want to win everything. And obviously it is different for them and there are other things involved, but in terms of being British and trying to push Brits to play more, if like a 10, 15-year-old boy, girl sees a British kid who was like me, say, playing at Nottingham as a junior, now playing in the Elite League, that's going to push them to, you know, it is possible. So yeah, I definitely think there needs to, in the future, or hopefully whenever we start again, there needs to be something in place where you can put a British goalie, and like even if it's like a minimum game allowance or minimum minutes allowance or anything like that, even on such a small scale, then it can only benefit the game in the British game.
Well, it can benefit the game. It's something that can make the Challenge Cup more valuable to teams, because you're developing your internal talent rather than play. And it's not going to, and like the British backups around the league and stuff, like yourself, like you say, like Tom Murdy, you are good players. It's just that the Elite League is such a, we have to win every single game, that coaches are sometimes afraid to put a British kid in because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Of course it is. And it comes down to income and everything like that, because I feel like if the Elite League went down the route of you build towards the end of like the playoff run, then Brits would get the games, because you'd have to give the starting guy a night off every couple of weeks. But because of the format and because of income and gate money and everything like that, it contributes to every game is a must win, because we need everything rolling at the same time, and then it becomes the Brits goaltending gets pushed aside, in my opinion, and it's hard. You're up against something where it's like pushing, you know, you're pushing against something that can't be moved because there's other things in place. But obviously, in a selfish point of view, ideally there needs to be more development.
Well, I think there's a lot of people who would like to see. I'm not the only person. I've seen it written somewhere before that why don't the British netminders start in the Challenge Cup? Why is that not? Just because it rests you guys for the league, and it lets you develop and you get games, and then the coach can see, oh, this guy can play actually in a meaningful game in the league. It builds confidence everywhere, and it's got to come down to that at some point. It has to.
Definitely. I can remember, you know, Jordan Marr for Fife. What was his name? There was an import playing in Fife a couple of years ago. Kind of small.
Oh God.
Before Shane. Oh, I think it was after Shane Owen. I can't remember. And he got hurt.
Was it
and
Morrison?
then Jordan came in. No, before.
Okay.
Can't remember his name. I can't remember. He was playing and he got hurt, and then Jordan obviously was the backup, and he got a run for like 20 something games.
Oh, that was the back end of 17-18, wasn't it?
Yeah. And Jordan got a run, and
Andy Isles.
That's it. Yeah. He got a run, and he just ran with it, obviously, and it kind of just cemented the fact that given the opportunity, it doesn't matter who's in goal, as long as the team performs and the goalie performs. Whether he's British or not, it doesn't matter. But as long as I can remember, there's a stigma, isn't there, where there has to be an import in goal. Yeah. And that's the rule.
And unless like you come around like a phenom, like a Ben Bounds, that's the only difference. Yeah. And
he's such an incredible goalie and so talented, and he's just a good pro as well. I don't know Ben personally. Yeah. I've never spoke to him very much. I think he coached me once at an England trial or something like that. I don't know, but he's a good excellent advocate for the game, and now he's over in Europe, and it's good to see, obviously, see everything like that.
And someone like Jackson as well, like Jackson's in the same like boat that Brett is a little bit. Brett Pelini, yeah. He's a British, but he's obviously got that experience from playing in the WHL or the OHL with Kelowna. I can't remember which one it is. He obviously brings that with him. So like the British thing is there. It just needs to be given the chance. It's certainly a very interesting subject just to debate and hope for progression in.
Yeah, I could talk about this for hours, but I won't.
We've already been going for hours.
Yeah, we have.
But I cannot thank you enough for your time for this. This has been a ton of fun. But I do need you to
pleasure.
finish this by talking about this suspension and this match penalty that you got blamed for Leeds. Because we were sat in the office, and I go to Gary, you know, Sam got a match penalty last weekend. And Gary may have, he used a word I can't really use on here, to call me a liar. And I was like, no, look, here's the press report. And we looked at the highlights, and we were like, he got a match penalty for that.
Yeah.
So talk me through the situation, the afters of it. And
okay. So it was, I think we were losing. It was early in the year, and I think we were losing fairly heavily. And it wasn't the first time I got ran that game. It was, I think it was like a 2-on-1, and he passed the middle. The puck went by him, and he, looking back, he did lose his edge. He just skidded into me, and obviously at the time, after being ran a couple of times that game anyway, I was like, no, this is not happening. So I dropped my stick, jumped on him, and I just held him down. But on the replay, it kind of looks like I just bury him with one of, I don't know which hand it is. I was like sucker punching, but he just, in my opinion, at the time, he ran me, and I was like, no, this is not happening. I'm not losing a game and getting ran every night either. So I, jumped on him. We had a few pleasantries. And then every guy on the ice jumped in. I think someone tried to rip my helmet off, and then it all was chaos ensued. And then obviously, I think he got a penalty, I think, for something ridiculous. I didn't know what my penalty was, so I was just sort of stood in the net, kind of like just laughing and joking with everyone, like, is this really happening? Like, all that I did, he jumped on him. And then it was kind of like they were conferring the refs, and I was just a bit like, oh, hang on a minute here. They're doing something over there. And like all the fans were like, the little gaps in the glass and like shouting through. And I've got a good relationship with the fans in MK, and we get a bit going back and forth. But yeah, it just erupted. Like the ref came over, he was like, oh, Sam, I've got to kick you out. I was like, are you like, are you joking me? Like other words, obviously. He was like, yeah, you got a match penalty for fighting. I was like, yeah. Any words were said, and I just started laughing. Like I was just, when you're just in that much disbelief, that I was just like, this is insane. Like all the fans are like leaning over the glass saying what I can remember every word under the sun kind of thing. And like, it's just, and then you get to watch the footage back, and Sam sent me it after. He was like, we're going to appeal it anyway, because why not? And then so I missed, so that was the first game I missed, a Sunday in Bracknell. And I in my head, I was like, oh, Bracknell away on a Sunday, not a bad miss. but yeah, so I missed Sunday, and then Monday came, and Sam rang me, and he was like, oh, it got downgraded to a roughing. So I was like, are you joking? Like, he was like, yeah, all seriousness, you got a 2-minute roughing after getting a match, abused, missing a game. And it was just a bit like, come on. But then like the rest of that season, every team suddenly thought I was this hot-headed goalie that, goes after people. And I was like, no, I'm a nice person. Like, relax. Like, you don't need to come after me. And then towards the end of the year, we're playing Bracknell at home. And then for some reason, like, I don't even know the guy's name, but he tried to start a fight with me after the second period in the game. And it was just a bit like, what is happening? Like, obviously, second period, you cross benches. And I was just going towards the home bench, and this guy like comes out of nowhere, like, let's go. I was like, what is going on? And then obviously chaos ensues again. Every guy jumps on the ice, and it's just a bit like, oh, what is going on? And eventually, third period comes around, and Sam ends up fighting the guy anyway. So I was a bit like, oh, good, rather you than me, mate. But yeah, so just to everyone watching, I'm not a hot-headed goalie.
You are getting a reputation for yourself, Mr. Gospel. I will say that. Oh, well, thank you so much for your time. This, like I said, we haven't done nearly enough about British hockey on this show. So to have like this insight into it all and stuff has been fascinating for me, because I've learned something from this. So I hope everybody else has. So thank you.
Good. No, it's a pleasure. No, it's always enjoyable seeing familiar faces anyway. So it's sooner we can get back to seeing everyone at the rink again, the better. But no, I've had a great time. It's loads of fun, loads of memories, and it was just cool.
For what matters most this Christmas. Plan ahead for 2021 with the Nottingham Building Society to take a step forward with your future finances. Look for your nearest branch today at thenottingham.com/branches.